Hey everyone, me Nazir and welcome in the third episode of the third tutorial generating or building a CLI application to generate passwords. In the previous two episodes, we wrote together the code to generate a password, and then in the second one, we implemented a CLI trait that's called StructOpt that will give us like more options while using the CLI instead of like the standard env library that we used in the previous tutorial. And this like solved our issue, and in this one or in this episode we will go refactor the code and discuss different ideas together to have like a more structured, more clean code that we can build on top of and enhance over the upcoming few episodes. So as usual, let me go to my Rust directory and then I'll go to the demos and then go to the demos password and open my code editor. And here we go. Let me write as usual. Let's start by writing what we'll do in this episode. So in this episode, we'll go with the first step, like adding a live module, and then after adding a live module, we will first let's discuss the refactor, and then after discussing, we add the args entity, and then as well add the password entity, and having everything implemented and working. So we'll discuss this in a minute. So let's start with the first task for today. We need to add a live module. Like, because this is a binary crate, we didn't generate it as live, so we don't have a live module. So here I will just go to the source and then I'll create a live module, live.rs, and then I'll get back here. And that's it. That marks the first thing. This is like the live module that we can import and use in our main.rs, exactly as an end user using this crate when we publish it, if we did. Okay, so let me go to main and check this as complete. And now let's discuss the refactor. We are refactoring for facilitating and making it easy in the future to add more functionality and enhance and scale this crate up. So to do this, I will go and create two separate entities. One entity is responsible for capturing and storing the arguments from the environment, and the other entity is the password. And why I will do this in two entities? To allow or facilitate adding new functionality, as we will see while refactoring this and building this. So I'll consider this like a brief discussion of what I'm gonna do, and I will iterate on it while building it. So I'll start with the first entity. I'll call it struct arguments, and struct arguments is the one that will use the StructOpt. So I have StructOpt in here, and as we saw before, I can go copy it and paste it, but like I like to iterate on it quickly, and then I'll just bind it. So I go with derive. As I mentioned, debug is not relevant. It's the normal debug, and then here I bind it with StructOpt. I can add the setup, and here I can just copy the setup instead of like writing everything. So I can copy this, add it here. Let's copy it. Let's copy everything, so we won't rewrite the whole thing. And if you want more information, like why those stuff are done like that, please get back to the previous episode. So now I have my struct arguments up and running. So, and binded with the struct opt and ready to receive the arguments. So I won't remove anything yet, but here we were capturing the arguments here in the main function, and this is like won't be possible anymore because we are going to refactor this. So the new part, I will add an implementation part for arguments, and within the implementation I will create a private function, and I will call it like get arguments get, makes sense, and then this should return an instance of self. And before returning an instance of self, I will just capture the arguments. So I will define like args, and this args will be of type arguments, and it will be arguments. Yeah, it will be arguments, and then I will call the function from args from the struct of the crate, and that's why the binding. So now when I call the get function on the arguments struct, I will capture the arguments from the environment. And notice it's a private function because I'm planning not to expose this object to the outer world. I'll use it internally within this live module, as you will see if you are following with me. Now I have my args, and then I can simply define length. We have only one argument. We are expecting one argument, so I'll just define it here. So length, and it's of type usize, will come from args.length. And yeah, that's it. So I have it here. I can simply return like self, and length I can just move this because I use the short the abbreviation, because if we have a variable with the same name, it should be fine here if we have this. Okay, so now I have the arguments fully functional but waiting to be triggered, and it's fully implemented. So I can easily go here and safely go here and remove this, and as well I can remove this. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, let me have my focus mode. Okay, and I also can remove this. So now I have my arguments migrated to the live module. Okay, what's next? What's next is the second entity. So I'm planning to have a second entity, which is the password. And this password entity will be public. So anyone who will use my live can import the live or use the crate into his main RS or into his or her code, and then just call the password to generate a password. So I will start with the struct, the second struct, and I'll call it password, and it will be a public struct. And here I'll just add I'll call it as text, and it will be of type string. What I'm planning to do here, but like not for this tutorial, you can take this as an extra level or a scale-up level that you can take this code and build on top of it, is like here in this, the whole tutorial, I will just return a string, but nothing prevents you from maybe having like a hashed password, maybe as MD5. You can name it like that, and this will be of type string, and then you will take the string and convert it into MD5 and return it to the user. Like nothing prevents you. And here also I will store the length. So I have a public struct of type password, and then I have as text, which will contain my password, and the length, which will be equal to the length that the user sent me. And for this as well, I need to implement, doing an implementation here. And for the implementation, I want anyone who like will call my function or will import my crate can call this directly. So I'll do a pub function. I won't name it. I can name it new. Name it new, and this new will return the self. of password, and then I can here just define. Here I can, yeah, first I need to capture the argument. So to capture the argument, I will call the first private entity, which is arguments, and I leave get. And as you can see, it's a private. It's being called within the password entity when on demand, when the user wants to generate a new password. So now I captured the arguments, so I can say let args equal arguments get. So now I have my arguments, I have the length, and now I can easily go to the previous code that we wrote before. And let me take all of this here and get back to my life and edit like this. So here I have arguments, I have my arguments, and then I have the chars pool as we did before. I have everything except the choose. Yeah, we need just to import choose from the rand crate. And I should be good. And here I will just return like self and as text. If I don't like to write it one more time, I can just change this password to be as text, and this is here we are good. And the length as well is, yeah, is args length, is args length. So if this implementation is good, we should have like a password object printed. So let me get to my main, and now I can remove this, and here as well I can remove this, and instead of everything I'll just use my demos password generator, the name of the crate, and then here I will just let password1 equal password, and here like new, and then I can go with like printing this object. The password entity is, and then I think it will be prettified, and I just have the password one. What's wrong? Yeah, the debug attribute. So I will go to here and add the attribute derive debug, and this should solve the issue. And now if it's this implemented correctly, everything should be working fine. So let me cargo run, and then separator, and then the shorthand for length, and I need like 7. Yeah, and as you can see, like here you have as text the password that was generated, and length is 7 as well. So it's working fine, but instead of like a password as a string, we now have an entity. And just to get back to the point I opened while discussion, like here we can have something like as MD5, and MD5 like it will be string, just to make sure that you got it. And here length, and here I can just as MD5, and it can be maybe anything like string from hashed version of the password. Let me run it one more time. And as you can see, so you can consider this as an extra example for you to scale up and take this code and add the MD5 hashed or any other hashing, and then you can also link it. You can have your own settings or your own flags or own arguments here defined in the argument that allows this hashing mechanism to be triggered and to be outputted with the results. And that's summarize why I decided to have two separate entities. So I reduce the dependencies, and I have like clear objects representing each concern or each functionality, like separation of concerns. So I have the arguments will take care of everything I want to do related to the user input, and I have the password that will take care of anything that will represent the output of the application. So I have like a clear separation between the two of them. Let me revert the hashing thing, and yeah, and that's it. One final test. 9. Okay. So this is the refactoring. I can also add more notes if you like to take it further. You can here in the arguments we can here add the validation. If we want to validate the length, like I don't like to allow the users to maybe write asking for a password of 100 characters. Doesn't make sense, or like longer than this. Stuff that like can consume and might break or break my application. So I need to add validations related to the user input. It will be relative to be added here in the arguments, and anything that is related to the password or the output will land it here. So for example, you can allow the user to select different natures of the password. So he or she can select only uppercase, only numbers, only special characters, and so on. This check and configuration can be done here. So that's why we have separate entities. And this is, let me check. We added the args entity, the password entity, and then we explained the why, having everything implemented and working, and this is it. Let me commit, git status, git add, commit. We did like update, refactor the main.rs to only use the new live grade, and then we added a new module live.rs to have or to contain the new structure. And that's it. So you can find all the log and the comments. So if you want to get back to this. I believe that's it for this third episode. We did like the restructure. We now have our stuff like up and running. In the next episode, we will touch on some validations. We will add some validations down that we iterated on today, and also we'll add unit testing. We'll add unit testing to test this application, and then we I think that's it. We'll add like validation and unit testing. We might like do it in one go in the fourth episode, or I might split it. I see, and I hope it adds value to you, and I hope you are enjoying watching this third tutorial. And if you have any feedback, any comments, any ideas, please share it with me. I'd love to discuss it and iterate on it with you. Yeah, that's it. I hope you have a good day. Bye bye.